Well, we've been wanting to do this video for a while because this is one of our most asked questions.
Absolutely. We get this comment all the time on our videos. It's, we've been thinking about going full-time, or we're planning to go full-time. We're a little overwhelmed with everything. How did you do it? So today's video is all about how do you go from concept to getting on the road. So today, no cool little montage of intro. We're going to get right to it. But first, we're so excited to tell you we are launching our website and blog. Yay, finally! It's a work in progress, but there's a lot of good stuff for you there. In fact, we have something awesome to share with you. You'll want to stick around in the video when we get to that section, but it's a tool that is going to help you so much, whether you're thinking about full-time living, if you're on the road, or you're just sometime and you want to know what it's all about. This tool is something you want to get your hands on, so stick around. So the very first thing you need to do when you decide, hey, I want to do this full-time thing, is pick a date, a launch date. Get excited, have something to look forward to. Plus, there's a lot of logistics that need to go into this journey to full-time. You have a lot of stuff to do. The earlier you pick your date, the better it's going to be on you, because you're going to have time to, especially if you're selling your house and selling all your stuff off, you're going to have that time to get it all done. But most important, it gives you something to just hold on to. I know when back in the day, anytime we had a vacation scheduled, I was like, I have the sights, I can see it in my future. So when you pick that date, you're going to have that excitement. It's going to make you want to get everything done.
Yeah, and you really need to have a deadline. I'm a very deadline-oriented person. So if I know that, we had to sell our house, we didn't have to sell our house. We had to rent our house. We had to get all this stuff done by this certain date. There was no looking back. It forced action. So I want you to comment below. What are you doing? Are you already full-time? Are you thinking about this? Are you dead serious about this and you've already set a date? Leave a comment below.
Yeah.
Let us know what you got going on.
Absolutely. If you're full-time, how long have you been out there? Share it with everybody, because it will encourage the guys that are just now getting on the road that they can do this thing. So the next thing you want to keep in mind and you want to envision is your why. Why do you want to get on the road? Do you have a certain length of time in mind? Do you want to hit all of the national, like the baseball stadiums? Do you want to hit the national parks? Do you want, are you just wanting to visit family and friends? Have that why in your mind the whole time. Because as you're going through all these challenging elements of planning and research to get on the road, you want to keep that in mind, because it's going to make all the difference.
So you're definitely going to have to tell people that you're doing this at some point, right? You're going to have to tell your friends, your family, your employer. And with us, that really wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, for me, it was kind of just because I had a band. Maybe if you've been watching our channel for a while, you know that I was the lead singer and bass player for a band. It was actually my band that I put together, and we had played for about 10 years together, pretty much every weekend. But I just kind of matter-of-factly told them this is what I was going to do. I didn't really apologize for it because I really wasn't sorry. I mean, I know that might sound terrible, but I gave them a lot of time, and out of respect for them to, and they ended up kind of carrying on without me in a different format, which was great. So, but you also might encounter some resistance. I mean, we've read stories of people whose families have freaked out on them, their sisters, cried like crazy whenever they left, and, or they made the announcement. And I would just encourage you just to stick to your guns, because, the name of our channel is Like There's No Tomorrow. There is no guarantee of tomorrow for any of us. We all know that. And so if this is your dream, and we hear that all the time, at least once per week, somebody says, oh my God, you guys are living our dream. Well, you probably have a dream too. That's why you're watching this video, and stick to it, because you can't, other people are not going to live their lives through you. They may not understand. They may not get it. They may try to talk you out of it. They may, ask you all these questions that frankly, you may not know the answers to, but don't let that discourage you. Just, let them know that you'll be fine, that you'll figure it out, and this is what you're doing. And hopefully if you have a date, just let them know when you're leaving. Okay, let's talk about money, especially when it comes to emergency funds and maintenance funds. And they're really two different things. So you probably heard this from the financial advisor types, but you really do need to have 3 to 6 months of expenses put back if at all possible. Speaking from experience, You may have watched our recent video where Darlene got laid off from her job after 5 years, kind of unexpectedly. So thankfully, we do have money put back that in a situation like that, we don't find ourselves in a total emergency situation to where we can't afford gas or we can't afford our truck payment or anything else that would be nightmarish like that. We certainly have shifted our expenses. The good thing is that we can boondock, and we do plan on doing a lot more of that in order to save ourselves money on campground fees. But if you don't want to be in a situation in this lifestyle where you're going to put yourself in a real bind if one of you loses your job or you have some sort of catastrophic financial situation and now you can't pay for this or you can't pay for your truck or you're just not going to be able to afford to do this anymore, and you find yourself in an emergency where you need to sell everything off. I mean, your mind starts running on what could happen. So just really try to have that money put back. The next one is maintenance. And as far as how much money you have put back, I mean, that's anyone's guess. Obviously, if you have an older rig that where you pretty much know there's going to be repairs and you're not Mr. Handy Guy, you're going to be paying. We've warned against taking to dealers just because we don't think it's the best way to go. We're a big fan of mobile techs, but keep in mind they make 125 to 150 bucks an hour, and so pretty much any repair on an RV is never going to be cheap. So if you can't fix it yourself and you can't afford to have somebody else help you, you're going to be in a bad situation. Don't do that to yourself. This lifestyle should be fun, and hopefully it's not always going to be just la-di-da all the time, but you don't want to put yourself in a bad situation just in general.
So the next thing that we get, and this is a question we get all the time, is about working on the road. Now there's a lot of different things that go into working on the road. It really depends on your skill set, who you are, things like that. But I just did a video just a couple weeks ago, and I'll put the link above and in the description, where I detail my journey after I lost my job. And I give a lot of suggestions that are way beyond like work camping and like gate guarding and those kind of things. I don't go into those. I go to some other ones that are more like career choices that you can do remotely on the road. So I would say right now, if you're working in an office, go talk to them about options of working remotely. Test it out. See if they'll like give you a couple weeks where you test it out with them and see if they would consider that, because you don't know until you ask, right? So that's where I would start if you have that kind of job that could possibly be done remotely. And if not, then start looking for opportunities. We've had a lot of nurses ask us about travel nursing and working in healthcare online. Those jobs are out there too. You just got to go and search for them. We're not experts in the healthcare area, but those things are out there if you do enough research. So whatever your skill set is, whether you're a handy person who can maybe do things on the road for repair, maintenance, I mean, we detail it all in that video. So I just really recommend you go back and watch that first. So that brings me to internet. We get that question all the time too. This one to me is an easy one. There's a lot of options out there. When we decided to go on the road, internet was the very first thing we budgeted for, and we budgeted big because we could not be without internet because we couldn't do our jobs as digital marketers. It's a must. We didn't want the employers to have any, worry that we weren't going to be able to work online, and we didn't want to have anything that was going to give us a lot of trouble. So we started out Starlink. Starlink is great. We have used it all over the country. The only problem with Starlink is when you don't have open sky, you can't always get it clearly. We've almost never had it totally not work. It's usually just buggy if you have like tree cover and stuff. So you want to have a backup. Up until now, we have used T-Mobile home internet all over the country. And everywhere, I think there was just a couple of spots where it didn't work. However, if you've heard the buzz, T-Mobile is not allowing people to take that home internet and move it around anymore. We don't know when that's going to happen. We don't know the details exactly, but they are releasing kind of like what I would consider their Starlink competitor, where it's like a mobile solution, but it is way more money. It's more than Starlink, and it's not something we're going to pay for in addition to Starlink. So if they do take that home internet away, we'll probably just go back to our original setup, which is Starlink, and then we use a Verizon hotspot backup. There is a group for traveling people and like advice on internet that I'll link down in the description. Mobile internet aficionados, mobile
resource center,
mobile internet resource center, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, I will put the information on the screen because I can't remember right now. But they are a great resource to kind of keep you up on what's happening with that internet options, mobile internet options. And they can also help you make the right decision for you. Okay, this is the big one. Purging. Oh no, this was the hardest part. I mean, I remember just looking at my house that we had lived in for years and all my stuff and all my kids' stuff and all the stuff that I didn't even know I'd had. And I'm like, I've got to get rid of all of this. How on earth are we going to do it? I think the first thing you start doing is you stop buying. Don't just stop. There's some essential things you'll need to get, referencing our last video, but there other stuff you think you need because you saw it on all the channels. You don't need it yet. Just wait. Just get the essentials and wait and get on the road before you start buying everything. So stop buying. That's the first thing. But what I did is I started to timeline. And that's why I said you want to do this as early as you can. If you're 2 years out, start doing it, literally, because you don't want to wait. We waited to like 6 months out and just tried to start getting rid of everything. And I timelined it by the month up to the launch date. I had everything written out by what needs to be sold by when, things that were like big rocks that I need to accomplish before we got on the road. And it helped. But if I had another 6 months before that to do a lot of this stuff, we wouldn't have had the scramble at the very end trying to get rid of everything. So here are the categories that I put everything into: is store it, sell it, give it away, throw it in the trash, or go to the RV. And if you can start thinking about those things, you'll start whittling away so that when you're 3 months out, you're down to the only bare bones you need to live in that house just to sleep. And you're going to make that transition to the RV a lot better. But a big one that we learned a lesson was storage.
Yeah. A word before we go there, though. You will realize that the stuff you think is worth so much money is not worth squat.
It's not.
I mean, Facebook Marketplace, we literally had stuff up for sale that we ended up begging people to take away. Like those big entertainment centers, they're worth nothing. They're worth less than nothing. We almost had to pay somebody to take it away. So don't hold on to that stuff and thinking it's worth so much money. Now, if you do have stuff that you think is worth a lot and you want to put it into storage, what you're really going to have to think about is, are you going to pay that storage fee for a year, 3 years, 5 years, and do the math on it? Is it really worth that much? I mean, because we did that. We made at the time, again, you don't know what you don't know. And those stairs that, like, we have a toy hauler and there's a bunk in the toy hauler, right? And there were these really clunky stairs that came with it.
Oh, the patios each had stairs that went out from the patios too. And those were really heavy and bulky. And we found ourselves never using them, but we thought, oh, but if we ever sell, they're going to want those stairs.
Yeah. You know what? Buy your own stairs.
Yeah. Forget it.
We ended up putting those stairs in storage. And 6 months later, we ended up having to go. We went back to Florida to visit, drove all the way back down to Sarasota, got those stairs out of storage, put them in the truck, took them to the dump. So I paid for 6 months to store something that I eventually had to pay to take to the dump.
Yeah. And we had some memorabilia type things there too. Because at first I was like, I don't want to burden my family with putting those in different places, But in the end, it was like 3 bins.
Burdened our family.
Yeah. I'm like, Mom, can you keep these 3 bins for us? Because you do the math and it doesn't make sense to hold that stuff in storage. And so those are the decisions you're going to have to make. And it's not that hard. Once you start letting go, like that last month, I was like, get rid of it, sell it, throw it in the trash, go. Because like we had a goal of getting on the road. And you just start after a while going, I don't even get here. You want this TV for $25? You take that TV. You go. So it was just time to let it all go and get on the road and start our new adventure. Okay, so this next part is about picking your rig.
That's right. And I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to buy and for how much money.
No, we're not. We're not going to do that because we talked about this. There's no way we can tell you what rig you need. So if you're already RVing, you know what it's like in your RV. You just have to ask yourself, can we live in this full time? Or maybe you just go and see how that is full time for you. I think it changes. That's why they say people change rigs like 5 times or something like that. And that's why, because you get out there and you kind of start going, okay, this totally works for us, or this totally doesn't work for us. It can be either way.
Yeah. Yeah. So our story. So we picked our rig. I mean, we had done some research, of course, on YouTube, like a lot of people do, and looked at various prices. We had it narrowed down, and we went to a couple RV dealers,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we looked at some of dealers, but in the end, we knew that Tampa RV show was coming up, and we could see a lot of rigs at one time.
Yeah.
So we took 2 days, and we tackled it in that way because we thought, well, okay, we got more to see in one place. Which I think RV shows are a great place to get inside, sit down, get a feel for what they are inside. A lot of people say it's not a good place to purchase, but for us, it worked.
Yeah. I mean, the Tampa RV show, if you get the opportunity, it is amazing.
It is
It
huge.
is unbelievable how many RVs they can stuff. It's on the Florida Fairgrounds, how many they can stuff into that area. And it's every possible configuration of an RV, from the tiniest little things where you think it's maybe made for a dog, to the big, giant, multi-million-dollar Class A.
That you have to make an appointment to
you
even
gotta have
go
an
inside.
appointment. We weren't on the guest list, so I guess we couldn't go
We weren't
inside.
that fancy. You have to be pre-qualified to do that. So
Yeah, exactly. So, but I'd encourage you to go. You don't have to buy there, but it's really cool experience.
yeah, and the Hershey show is very similar. So if you're in that area, that's another option for you.
Yeah, but I mean, we were there for a couple days. We went back to the hotel on the night between. We just kind of narrowed it down to the ones that we looked at, trying to remember what the heck.
I took pictures.
Which one was that?
That's actually a good thing to do. I would take a picture of the sticker before we walked in, and then take pictures inside the ones we were really interested in, so that when I went back to the hotel, I could look at them and go, okay, this was that one. This had that. Oh yeah, it had this cool, mid bunk, and that was kind of helpful to do on the in between day, that night of the first day, because we were able to go back the second day and just really focus on the ones that we were really contending, that were contenders for our rig.
Yeah, but I mean, we had actually kind of narrowed it down that this was a serious contender before we ever even got there. And once we got in it, were able to hang out in it. And actually saw a couple we had been watching on YouTube.
Yeah, Venturesome Couple.
Met those guys.
Yeah,
at the show.
we got this rig because they had this rig and they told us all about it.
Yeah, they were actually there. They came and hung out with us inside the RV and told us all about it. So, so that was our experience, and we thought we got a good deal.
Yeah, well, we kind of did, because it was on record one of the coldest weekends or worst weekends in Florida in like years, and we went at the end of the day on the last day of the show. It was so cold and windy and yucky, hardly anybody was there, and that's a big deal for that show. I mean, usually it's packed. We were bundled up and miserable, and we walked in and they were ready to deal.
That's
because
right.
We were one of the few people there left looking. So I do feel like we paid too much when I look at that now, because the time it was, rigs were really expensive, but we did get a lot of extras thrown in. Yeah. So, but it got us on the road and it got us in our rig that we really liked. So just do your research, guys. Figure out, are you big? Are you small? Are you used? Are you new? What your comfort level is, and just start researching and go and see and experience them. If you can rent them or borrow one from a friend, everyone says to do that. We did not do that, but I do think it would be helpful just to get a feel for something if you can pull it off. It's just kind of expensive to go rent a bunch of different rigs. So the next thing you have to consider and do is get full-time RV insurance. So if you're sometiming it or weekending it, you need to upgrade that to a full-time coverage, because the rates are obviously different because you're in it a lot more. There are some companies and states, and it gets really hard to get covered. So we had to switch from I think we had State Farm with our cars. They didn't have any kind of trailer RV coverage. So we switched on that to Progressive, and we got a pretty good rate. But it's definitely something you want to look into. And there's a part of full-time insurance that you need to make sure you get. And that is, if you are, say your rig breaks down and has a huge repair, you've got to be out of your rig for a week, 2 weeks, whatever. you want to have the coverage that gives you lodging. So if you need an Airbnb, if you need a hotel, that you get money towards that in your RV coverage, because we've heard horror stories that people were only covered for like a week, and then it ended up being a month, and they had to pay for the rest of it. I mean, that would be really expensive. So you want to make sure, if you can, to get that kind of full-time coverage.
In order for us to transition from living in a big 4-bedroom house to living in this RV, we felt a lot more comfortable doing that not too far away from home, but we knew that we needed to do it. So it worked out to where we needed to prep our house to put it up for rent anyway. We needed to clean it out and do all those things. So we actually moved into a local RV park that was about 25 minutes away from our house, and we lived in the RV. Of course, we just kept going back and forth to the house, but we lived in the RV, and that enabled us to figure out what it was really like, all the things that we needed to maybe go out and buy, things that we needed to still get rid of that didn't quite fit into storage or whatever, and just kind of figure this thing out before we drove 1,000 miles away. There was a certain comfort with just being right there in our hometown and being close to our house and figuring things out. So if you have the opportunity to do that, we would highly recommend doing it, because it made a huge difference for us to give us confidence to hit the road. Okay, you're getting down to the wire, so definitely you need to take care of things like doctor's visits, visits to the chiropractor, visits to the dentist, getting your hair cut. My wife says that apparently the last time that you'll ever get a really good haircut is at your own salon. Ladies, definitely go get yourself fixed up. No, but seriously, this is a great time to have just very direct conversations with your healthcare provider, because what I discovered is that I take antidepressant medication, which has not been a problem to get, but what has been challenging for me to get has been sleep medication. Believe it or not, prescription sleep medication, at least Ambien, what I take, is considered a narcotic. And anytime you have doctors that are having to prescribe narcotics, apparently that causes them all sorts of issues. So my psychiatrist, she ended up dropping me, which I didn't mind because I really, frankly, didn't like her very much anyway. Uh, and because she was kind of a pain in the butt to deal with, and I guess she probably thought I was a pain in the butt to deal with. But it turns out that my regular MD back in Florida could actually prescribe the antidepressant medication for me, but he just informed me that he can't do the out-of-state medications for the sleep meds. Go figure. Obviously, I am not a health professional. I'm not a doctor. I don't know anything about this type of stuff, and everybody's situation is different. The medication you need is going to be completely different than me. That's why I can't really give specific advice for this. My best advice would be just talk to your healthcare provider, talk to your pharmacist, whoever who would know more about these particular situations. Just ask them about your specific medication. Is it going to be an issue for me to get this on the road if I need to contact you 3 months from now to have it refilled and I'm in Oregon, if I'm half the country away? Am I going to have an issue getting this? And find out now so you can make plans to get around it.
Okay, guys, let's talk about domicile. So when you go full-time, you obviously are going to need that address that is still your home. It's the thing that gives you the residency while you're on the road. So some of you are going to keep your house. You're just going to go on the road. Some of you will rent your house. Some of you will lease your house. So there's a lot of options there, and you may or may not need a domicile. But for us, we ended up leasing the first year, selling eventually, and we were Florida residents. So we needed a new residency. So we used a RV club called Escapees. And Escapees does a lot of really cool stuff. Honestly, it's an RV club. They have events, they have community. It's a way we actually meet people on the road. We go to a lot of their events, the Escapers events, which are like working RVers. But honestly, it's just a lot of other people too. So that's not necessarily true. But we really enjoy them as a community. They give a lot of discounts. I just thought it was a great thing to join, regardless if we did the domicile and we also use them for our mail service. But the choices were South Dakota, Texas, and Florida. And that's where a lot of full-time RVers domicile, mainly because I think they're more lenient on rules, and they also have no state tax. So I think that has something to do with it. But we were already residents of Florida, so we wanted to stay in Florida. So we chose Florida as our domicile. But recently, we've actually started thinking about leaving Florida and moving to either South Dakota or Texas, mainly because the insurance rates in Florida have gone sky high, especially over the last 4 to 5 months. It's just ridiculous now. So we're looking into the pros and cons of that. So I started doing a little research, and this is maybe, regardless if you use escapees, regardless of what state you're in, if you're picking a domicile, these are things to consider. So income tax, the tax rate. Let's see here. Will it cost to register your truck, your RV, your car, whatever? Do you have to have an inspection in that state? Health insurance. Are you going to be able to get health insurance there? Is it going to change your health insurance? So these are all things to ask about. We are actually looking into new insurance because as if you watched one of our last episodes, I lost my job. I was laid off, so I lost my benefits. So we are right in the middle of researching that. In fact, if you're interested in that, please let us know in the comments, and or subscribe to keep getting and ring the little bell, because the bell on YouTube makes you get notifications when we release new videos, because we are working on kind of like health on the road kind of video, all aspects of health insurance, staying healthy, what do you do when you get sick on the road, things like that. So we're working on that one. So if you're interested, definitely let us know and or subscribe. Jury duty. You know, this is when we did get called since we've been on the road in Florida. We just wrote and said we were traveling and not in the area. It was no big deal. I think that's the case in most states. I've heard South Dakota can be a little bit more picky about it, but I don't know for sure on that. So again, I'm just researching my options on that as well. So do your research too. Now that brings me to, you picked a domicile. Now you have the address once you move out of your sticks and bricks or get on the road. What about your mail? Now this one, regardless if you have a house or don't, you need to do something with your mail. So obviously you can have a relative get it and deal with it that way. We did not want to do that. We wanted something that allowed us to see the mail, to see the contents, and that's what we got. Again, with Escapees, they have a mail service. So not only do you get a mailing address, so my domicile address and my mailing address are actually different, which has never been a problem at all. So my mail house is actually in Texas. I have an address there. That's where I put all of our mail to go to. And I love this service because they sort out the junk mail and they scan the front of the envelope. Now, this is another level of membership to get this. You do have to pay more for this part. But to me, it's totally worth it because they show me the front of the envelope and then I can tell them destroy it. I can tell them, keep it. And then when I ask for my mail, they're going to send it to me. Or I can ask them scan the contents. Now, this was really, really important for us when we were going through some business stuff and taxes and things like that, or just important documents you get in the mail that you really need to see right away. That scanning service has been awesome. Now, there are other companies that do this. If you didn't want to join something like Escapees, and by the way, I'll put their link in the description and I'll put their logo and stuff on the screen so you know who they are so you can find them. It does help us if you would use our links. It helps us support our channel and support us through income. We don't get a ton, but every little bit helps, right? So if you do get interested in a lot of these things we're talking about, all the links will be in the description. If you'll use our link, then we get a little kickback and it helps us at the same time. And we don't recommend anything that we wouldn't use ourselves. So always remember that. So the other mail services that I've heard a lot of people use are Good Sam, and then also My RV Mail. And I know there are even more than that. So you know what? If you have a good one, leave that in the comments because all of our new people or people that are trying to get on the road, they just want to soak up all the info, right? So if you have a good solution for them, put it in the comments so they can read it, so they can have more options. All right. This is a big one, your budget. You've done all this stuff to get on the road. How do you know you can afford it? How do you manage it while you're on the road? what's the realities of it all? I think this is probably a newbie's number one question because it was mine. I didn't know how much stuff was going to cost. And as we detailed in our last video, last week, I believe, was our budget video. Now, that is a really good one. And if you haven't watched it, definitely go back. I'll put the links everywhere. But you want to watch that. And it is a little long, but it details our spending. Now, your spending and our spending may totally be different. I heard a lot of comments about that, and that's okay. But you can take that budget video and get an idea. But the most exciting thing is with the launch of our new website, we have a tool for you. It's absolutely free. All you have to do is go to the website, and a little pop-up will come up on the front, and it'll offer you a free budget worksheet. And I'm telling you, I put so much effort into this thing. It's just a way for you to have a year tracking. So each month you'll enter your numbers on all the major categories. You can list, what you have, like big expenses that may have happened and what month that happened, so that when you look at it later on, you're like, why was my spending so much in March? Oh, we had to buy new tires, So, but it gives you the idea of like how much you're spending each month, how much your budget is for the month, how much your actual is for the month, and the same thing for the year, so that you know if you're going way off. And I want to give it to you for free. So all you have to do is go to the website and grab it. And you'll also be getting some really cool tools from us that we'll send maybe once a week, giving you updates and things as to what we have going on, and we're going to do some giveaways. So that's even a better reason to grab that, because we want you to be in on our community that we're building. We're newbies, but we're growing, and we'd love for you to come along with us. Okay. It was getting hot out there, so I had to come inside. So the next thing, and it's a really important one. It's the one I think I read the most anxiety from you guys on, especially people getting on the road. People may have just been doing weekends, and now they're looking at planning like every day of the year because they went full time. It can be overwhelming, but don't let it be. I mean, I was overwhelmed at the beginning, but I found some tools that really help me reel it in, keep it tight, know I am in control. I think that's the thing when it comes to full-time travel. I mean, there's some of you guys that just wing it and you just go wherever, whenever, and you just kind of like, oh, let's call there and see if we can get a spot. Or I can't do that. I'm a planner, and I have found that you can't always do that all throughout the year. So when we're in the West and we're doing a lot of boondocking in the winter, we do just kind of go where we go, find out where our friends are, because we don't need reservations. It's pleasant outside. We can boondock to our heart's content. But there's a lot of times of the year where you have something where you need to be somewhere specifically on a date. So what I love that Trish from Keep Your Daydream, she always calls it the big rocks. You have these big things that you need to plan for. So that's the first thing I start putting on the schedule. So doctor's appointments, events, weddings, graduations, birthdays that you really want to be somewhere for. Holidays. Holidays are a big one because they sell out fast in certain areas. That is definitely one you need to pay attention to. And just summer in general, when the kids are out of school, y'all, those state parks fill up fast, because we are people that we don't go somewhere and camp for 2 days. We never, ever do that. That's just not what we do as full-timers. We have a large rig. It's easier for us and more comfortable for us to stay 2 weeks at each place if possible. That way we get a lot of time there. We can check out what the locals, have to offer, the new, whatever. We want more time. We don't like to move super fast, and it's more, you save a lot more on gas and stuff if you stay longer, obviously. So a tool like RV Trip Wizard, RV Life has a bundle of stuff, but the Trip Wizard is the trip planning. I couldn't RV without that, to be honest. It keeps everything very clear. I know when I lock something in, I paid for it. I've got the information. I can put in the little notes. I know what time I need to arrive, what check-in, check-out is. It gives me all the information. And it just has so many RV parks, state parks. Even there's a few boondocking things in there, although I don't use that mainly. But there is so much that's in there for you to research and find the spot you want to be in. You can read people's reviews. It's just like a tool that has everything in one place. And that's why I love it so much. So I'll put the link to that below. Again, that's a way you can help support our channel. RV Life is a great supporter of ours, and we like to share about them because we've used them from day one before we even had a partnership with them. They are someone we highly recommend because we use it daily. Like literally, I'm in there every day. So other things that I use for trip planning, we do a lot of boondocking. To find those spots, there's Campendium, iOverlander, and another one, and there's some other ones out there. Those are just the two I use mostly. But the BLM website, there's that too. But I have a Facebook group, two Facebook groups that I follow. The main one, if you put boondocking groups in Facebook, I'm sure you'll pull up a bunch. But the one I like the most for us is boondocking for big rigs. And these are usually people with somewhat sizable fifth wheels or bigger. Because of the other boondocking groups, I have a lot of van lifers. And while they tell you great places they go, you can't always fit. So the boondocking for big rigs group, they all have sizable rigs. And they are so awesome about sharing where they're going, sharing pictures. I have like an inspo board. So anytime someone posts something I know I really have interest in, I'll save that on my Facebook. So that's another good tool for trip planning. But it really depends on what you're into. If you're just doing RV parks, campgrounds, things like that, a tool like RV Life is going to help you find whatever you need. And I like it because it gives you like the weather when you're going to be there, average, and it's a lot more robust than a lot of the other free apps and tools that you can get to try to find places. So don't be overwhelmed with trip planning. There are so many tools out there. Find the tools that are right for you. If I inspire you with these, try these. RV Life to me is essential. If you're all the time in the world, maybe you don't need it and you're good with spreadsheets and tracking, you could probably do it all on your own. I'm not that girl. I'm busy. So the RV Life tool is going to save me a lot of time and frustration. And to me, that is worth every penny.
So what do you do with your house? If you own your house, you're thinking, well, we can either sell it, rent it out, or just let it sit there and we'll come back to it eventually. So we ended up renting our house out for the first year. And let me tell you right out of the gate, I am not the landlord type. The only requirement that I had with renting my house out that I was going to have a management company. Now, we lived in Sarasota, Florida, and there were a lot of really good management companies because there are a lot of people that purchase vacation homes or they purchase investment properties and they rent them out on Airbnb, that type of thing. So there are a lot of management companies that are really good. Our particular homeowners association would not allow us to do Airbnb. So that was not an option for us. We did think about doing that because I liked the idea of actually taking all of our stuff that we ended up having to get rid of and putting it in the garage and just telling our Airbnb folks, you can't go in the garage, but you can have anywhere else. That didn't work out for us, so it was not an option. So we ended up renting it out. Now, we did that at a particularly good time in the rental market. There were a lot of people from like New York and stuff that were moving into Florida paying high rent. And we took advantage of the situation. The market was such to where we could get top dollar for our house. So we did that. It worked out great. Now, the thing is, the management company, I think they took anywhere from 17 or 7 to 13%.
That's 7 to 12.
7 to 12%.
It depending on what level.
Okay, so they had different levels. All the management companies are going to be different. I'm sure that if you rented houses before or if you've dealt with management companies, everybody has their horror story. Feel free to leave comments below. We had a great one. We didn't have any problems with them. We just kind of, if there was any repair, you had basically an allowance that you gave them. If any repair or $500 or less, they just did it. They didn't have to bother us with it. That was just kind of the arrangement that we had. And we had really good tenants, and they had a vetting process that was pretty hardcore. In fact, one of the things we really liked about them is they had their own real estate attorney on staff, and they made it very clear right out of the gate that if you had any kind of deadbeat tenants, they had a zero exceptions policy where they got rid of people, they evicted them, and all that. I was like, great, you be the bad guy. I literally just wanted to be a name on a piece of paper. That if they happen to know my name as the landlord, it's only because they saw it on the piece of paper. The tenants had no interaction with us at all. We liked that situation, and it worked out well for us for the first year. Unfortunately, our tenants, they were actually there because they were building a home. And it was taking a really long time with Florida at the time because of a number of things. They ended up building their house. They actually ended up moving out of the house before their lease was up. They continued to pay the rent, but we had to find new tenants. And that proved very difficult to do the second year. So we kept lowering the price on our rent, lowering the price. We were unable to rent it out for a price that we felt that we even wanted to deal with. At that point, we weren't going to be making hardly any profit at all. And so we just decided to sell the house. So now we really are not emotionally attached to the house. I know that some of you watching, maybe you've had a house that's been in your family for many years, or you built a lot onto it. Maybe you built a barn, or you built all this stuff, and you've got like this homestead that you can't even imagine selling or renting or any of that. That's fine. You do you. But just know that if you're thinking about renting it to a relative or something like that, that can get weird, you know. So that's up to your situation. I'm just telling what we did. We ended up selling the house. We ended up having a real estate agent that I actually knew as a musician, who was actually doing really well in real estate. He took care of us, did a fantastic job, sold our house actually for more than asking. So as far as the sale price of the house, we did very well with that, which strangely enough, we couldn't rent it for anywhere near the price we needed to. Just a unique situation. So we were very happy with the sale of it. Things worked out great. We were actually in Oregon at the time. All the paperwork was taken care of. This person just kind of showed up to our RV park in Oregon. We signed up all the paperwork, and boom, we sold our house. Money showed up in the bank account like a couple days later, and there you go. It was that easy. So that's our story, and that's what we decided to do. We were extremely comfortable with it. We didn't set out RVing thinking we were going to sell the house. We knew that we could maybe go back to it if we really kind of hated this lifestyle. But we had no intentions, even if we held on to the house for 5 years, we weren't going to move back into it. It's too much house for two people. So, and we didn't think we would ever move back to Sarasota anyway. So it was kind of an easy decision for us.
So now you're out there on the road. The biggest thing I can tell you is you got to find your groove.
Yeah. The first 3 to 6 months, it's going to be a little tough, especially if you're like us and you never RV'd before.
The learning curve is big.
Yeah. And you need to be patient with each other. In fact, we made an entire other video about sort of the stuff that nobody talks about with full-time RV life. You might want to definitely review that video, because what we learned is, there's so much. You're living in this small space. You're with each other all the time. You're in a strange living environment. Both of you are. And you're also, they have the added stress of traveling with, you're towing this, in our case, this big giant RV, going through mountains and stuff. It can be really stressful. So, and at the same time, you're just learning how to live in an RV. And it's going to be, like we said, 3 to 6 months. It took us to really get used to it.
Yeah.
But once we found our groove, things changed.
Well, and you figure out who does what. And then you have routines, you have checklists, so like Barry does a lot of the outside stuff when we get somewhere. I do the inside stuff. I do the planning, trip planning. He does the maintenance, so we both kind of have these lanes that allow us, to own our thing, and someone isn't stepping over you and telling you what to do constantly, and you just own your own thing. And I think that is a good thing to do. It adds to that finding your groove thing, because once you do, like now we're 19 months-ish in, it's getting so much easier. It's getting more this is just part of what we do. So you'll get there. So I know the beginning is going to feel, and some of you guys that are already on the road could probably chime in the comments and say, yes, that's true. When you first get going, it is the hardest, but it's the most exciting at the same time. We are so excited for you guys to get out there. If you're not already out there, if you're in the planning stages. So this is what it's all about. It's an amazing lifestyle. It's an amazing opportunity. This video, basically lays out everything you have to do to get there.
Right.
Now you're there, get out there and enjoy it.